We begin today with the camera above the woods near a raging river, and the camera zooms down and it looks at three wolf-like creatures called Arduffs, and they're drinking from a little offshoot stream, and the water looks like it has a green tinge to it. And the camera zooms in on their faces, and you see the Arduffs go mad, and their eyes turn green and foggy. And a few moments pass as they're running through the woods, and you see their noses raise, and they run over to the river's edge, and they begin to grunt and howl at each other, and it looks like they're onto something. Feverishly, they begin to run upriver, chasing something that they can't see but they can smell. They jump over some logs, and when they jump over, they see what looks like to be a male gelfling and a small female gelfling jumping onto a raft, frantically trying to center themselves in the river. And a couple moments pass, and the pack of Arduffs get near the river's edge, and two of them leap across, and they're trying to jump at Vierana and Jibo. And they are in the air with their claws out, and it looks like they're coming right to you. You're muted.
V, grab me, hold on tight. I pull out my longbow, and instinctively I pull out two arrows, and I try to take a double shot. One at the two out of the three that are now leaping towards us.
Okay. V, you there?
Yes.
These wolves are jumping across.
I grab my I put my hand I put one of my hands on my bag and shut my eyes very tightly and say in a quiet whisper, why do they want us?
And at that moment, you lock the arrows into your bow and pull back, and V grabs onto you, and you see the stick that you were riding the boat go flying downriver a little bit. One of the wolves jumps, the Arduff wolf-like creature jumps completely over, and the other one lands on the front of the raft right at the moment you're about to let these arrows go. Go ahead and give me that roll. We'll give you a target of 16.
I rolled a double 6. And so that would be an 18.
All right, as the one is jumping over, you shoot him, and one of the arrows hits him right dead in the middle of his chest, and the other arrow goes flying off into the woods, and the Arduff goes right over your head and splashes into the water behind you, and the other one is holding on to the edge of the raft right in front of you, barking and gnarling, trying to paddle itself on, but it just can't quite get a hold. And at that moment, also, you see the other one running beside up the side of the river's edge.
V, I'm sorry it's come to this, but now you must act. just as I taught you. Take care of the one climbing on the boat, and I'll take care of this one on land. As I pull out another arrow and take aim at the one running beside us.
What do you? What do I do? What do I do? I say as I shake my hands. I look at my pouch and grab my knife. I stab one of the wolf, not the wolf, the wolf-like creature hanging on to our boat, hoping that it will let go.
Okay, so as you're locking up another bow and she's going into her pouch, the RDF that's on the boat is like paddling, and it's actually turning the boat, and it kind of knocks you off balance a little bit when you're about to take your shot. So go ahead and give me that roll, Jibo. Target will be an 18.
That's the first part.
Okay, so that would be a 14.
Vierana, go ahead and give me that roll. You're trying to stab at the other one.
Okay. Try not to roll like computer since I like to do something. Yeah, really hold on. I rolled a 6 and then I added the stab thing, so I got a 9.
Okay, so when you go over to start stabbing at him, he looks at you, and Fluffy jumps out of your pouch and starts chirping at him too. And he sees you coming at the knife, and you're stabbing at him, but you're not really hitting him. You're like hitting by his feet. And when you stab by his feet, he kind of lifts one of his feet up, and the current pulls him off the boat, and he starts he's in the water now, like getting pulled away. And then when you shoot that arrow, the boat was just turning too quickly, and the arrow flies off into the overhead canopy. And now the boat is like turning sideways, but you're moving more towards the center of the river now.
I grab Fluffy from the boat and put it back in my bag and close it and say, Fluffy, don't jump out. You could fall. It's really dangerous out here.
V, take a knee. Duck. As I feel the boat turning to the side after missing with my second arrow, I now flail my longbow in the air, swing it one time, and I want to swing and smack the wolf right in the face with the long opposite end of my longbow.
All right, go ahead and give me a roll.
Take a knee.
6.
I rolled a 6. And
all right, you swing at him, but the boat is turning, and he's swimming away now towards the opposite shore. He actually got across you, and now he's actually swimming to the other side, the side that you guys want to go to. And then you're swinging at him as the boat's turning, but you're unable to hit him, and he gets caught up on some rocks, and you go past. And the one on the side is kind of still running with you a little bit on the other side, and the other one that you shot, you don't see anymore at all. And as you're going down this, also you're starting to go back into the forest a bit, so the trees are starting to get thicker again.
I look down and take note of where V is. V, are you okay?
Yes, I have a plan. You have to bring us to the other side, though.
Stay in the middle. I'm going to paddle the boat a bit. And I use my longbow to try to navigate us through the water and continue drifting a little bit as I slowly veer us in the direction across the other side of the river, which may take a bit with this fast.
You're doing
River
that,
flow.
and you're actually controlling it really well with the bow as you're going along, and it's working very well. And you're starting to get more to the other side, and then all of a sudden, as you're going, you steady yourself one time, and your bowstring snaps and almost hits you in the face. You're able to move out of the way really quickly.
I study myself and take note of how much further I need to go to continue drifting across, and I continue using the longbow itself to steer this craft.
And as you steady yourself, and you're almost 20 feet away from the other shore, but you've probably traveled a few hundred feet downriver already. V, you notice as you're looking along the side, you see what looks like to be some eyes in the bushes along these tall trees with the big vines hanging down. You notice a couple sets of them.
I say to myself, oh no, not another one. As I put out my hand, as I put my hand on the side of the boat, getting ready to jump out when we get to the other side.
And when you're doing that, you do notice that the eyes aren't green, though, that you saw. The eyes looked white. And then about that moment, Jibo, you're able to get the boat safely to a little cove under a big tree with lots of vines hanging down, and what looks like a good safe spot to dock. And as you're doing that, you look across and you see that last Arduf kind of look across, makes a howling noise that sounds really far away, and then you see it turn and run into the woods.
As I'm grabbing vines and pulling the boat closer to the other side, I immediately then jump off and start slushing through the side of the water about half thigh deep, coming in and pulling the boat all the way across. V, come on. Hop onto me.
I hop onto him and say, do you want to know what my plan was? Well, when we get to that other side, it's the side we need to go to, right? I could use my plant control power to tell the trees to make a barrier so then they wouldn't be able to get to the other side as we can run to a safe place.
Definitely. As of now, let me check the map and see where we're at. We've drifted quite a bit. We drifted quite a ways. And I pull out my map and just kind of realign myself and to my location.
And when you look on the map, you do realize, like, you see yourself, you see where you kind of thought you were on the river, where the river was closer to the plains. And you do see you're in back south a little bit more. Even though you've crossed the river now to the east, you're back south a little into the wood a little bit, but it's not that far to break the wood again. And then and about that time that you get your bearings and you catch your breath, you hear the other Arduf coming down the river's edge on your side, the one that swam across. You hear him barking and growling, and you can actually hear his footsteps and him running through the bush now.
I'm wondering, V, how much time do we have? It's going to take me quite a bit to reset my bow. We better scurry off. I don't think we're going to stand a chance against these Ardufs.
well, then we better get going. I say as I grab his hand and start to dash into the forest.
All right, you guys, as you begin running through the forest, you notice the forest is definitely thicker here where you are now than it was before, because you were almost breaking the edge of the forest before. So you're jumping over vines and roots and stuff. And you notice as you're running, this Arduf is getting closer and closer. And you kind of break into an area that the ground is a little bit more flatter. That's now you're away from the river. And you see all these white circular puffy flowers. And as you're getting closer to the puffy flowers, they're standing up.
As we're running through the forest, I put my bow back into its holder and I pull out my short sword, and I'm kind of using this as we go along to move anything out in front of us and to just kind of have something ready. V, keep up. Keep up. Now's not a time to slow down.
Okay, as you're running through, you hit a couple of these puffy flowers, and when they puff behind you and you're running, you see like a hazy mist, but it's white and sparkly, poof out, and then it like fizzes out into the air, and a whole bunch of these are now like clouding as you're running behind you. And V, give me a herbalism roll to see if you kind of recognize what these flowers are.
I got a 13.
You're not exactly sure. You've never seen these before, but you've heard of these before from other people that you've learned herbalism from. And these are called sleepy pods. And they pop. The stuff that comes out of them can put people to sleep and animals.
I say, wait, as I pick a couple of these flowers, making not sure to touch the top of them. If one of them come, we can set these off so that it wouldn't be able to see us, and it might even fall asleep by chance.
And even as you're saying that and grabbing them, you see the Arduf coming through the bramble and the bushes, and he walks into the cloud of smoke, and you see him getting drowsy and actually falling over, and then he falls over to sleep. And then you can even see a couple little animals and toad-like creatures and birds all land, and they're all sleeping now in this dust. And then at that moment, the wind changes a little bit, and this dust is now starting to blow towards you.
I grab V by her clothing. Come on, honey, keep it moving. We got to get away from these before we too fall asleep. And I make our way away from this little field of these flower-like plants, or these plants that are putting to sleep.
All right, you grab her and you're towing her along, running through the forest, and you feel yourself drowsying a little bit, but you're able to fight it off. You don't feel like you got too strong of a breath of it, and you guys run you lose track of time. You're just trying to run from this thing, and then as you're running, you see up ahead light that doesn't look like daylight. Even though it's getting a little bit later, you see a light up ahead that looks like lights of fires. And about that moment, you notice that as you're looking through, your eyes focus in, and these creatures seem to come out of nowhere right in front of you. And they don't look scared of you for any reason, but they look curious, if anything, and their heads are tilting sideways. There's tall ones, short ones. They all have different furs, eyes in different locations, and they're all chirping and making weird noises that you don't understand or have never heard before.
I look at them and say, "Well, look at them. I could try talking to one if you wanted."
And right at that
I
moment
don't know.
you do that, Fluffy pops his head out of your pouch and makes a few chirp noises. And then you notice a whole bunch of side ticks just come out of nowhere, and they all start chirping and stuff, and you see Fluffy now going crazy in your pouch. Looks like he really wants to get out.
I tell Fluffy in a silly but firm way, "Okay, you can get out, but once we're heading out, you have to get back in my pouch, okay? And don't get mixed up with anyone else," I say, as I slowly let him out of my pouch.
And as I'll let you go in a second here, Gio, but I want to give you some more information real quick. As she's doing that and you're catching your breath again, you feel a weird itchiness on your arm, and then you get that wave of sickness again that you've been having. And as that's happening, these creatures are slowly moving towards you, but not intimidatingly at all. Very curious.
Seeing these creatures and looking at their eyes, they're not green. I sheath my sword. Animals of the wood. Do you understand Gelfling?
They don't seem to respond to you, but when Vierana releases Fluffy runs right over to the group of the other side ticks, and they're all dancing around and doing some kind of communication.
Oh.
And now the creatures from the forest are now just in front of you, and they seem to stop kind of talking so much, and one of them's talking to you, but you don't understand anything it's saying.
As this animal is talking, I'm rubbing my chest and massaging my arm. Something doesn't feel right. I'm feeling it again.
I hollow over to Fluffy. "Fluffy, come," as I put down my hand, waiting for him to come. What do you mean you're feeling it again?"
It's like being bitten, like something poisonous, and I just don't feel right. I got another cold chill through my body, and my arm's starting to go numb. These animals.
Now they're like touching you. They're up close. They're touching you, and they're kind of talking low voices. And while you guys are doing that, and one of them's touching. A couple of them are touching Bee on the back, and they're like looking at her back. And now you see them. They kind of look confused a little.
Hey, that's enough. Away from her. In my protective instinct to keep her powers secret, I kind of jump around them and put my arm around her. Shoo now, shoo, go away. Come on, V.
Fluffy and grab him, put it in my pouch. I say, "Wait, I have to get Fluffy."
Yes. Fluffy, come on. Let's go. We have to keep going. You animals of the wood, if you can help guide us back to our path, it would be much appreciated. Would you know the way? And
they tilt their heads sideways and look confused for a second, then they start speaking amongst each other, and they don't seem to understand what you're saying. And then they look down at the side ticks, and a couple of them bend down, and they make some noises between each other, some chirping noises, and then they seem excited all of a sudden, and they start walking. They just start walking towards a direction. Looks like the direction kind of you were going, but more, a little bit more west, back towards the river.
Oh, I guess they're gonna help us.
I
Oh,
hope
nice.
I hold Fluffy in my head and pet him softly and say, "Where are they going?"
Fluffy doesn't give you any response. He just chirps and stuff excitedly.
And
I look at him and say, "You don't want to talk? Okay, I guess. I have a weird, confused, strange feeling."
and I grab V's hand, and we kind of follow along. This direction feels right, V. This is my approximations of where we would need to go to get back on our path.
And as you're saying that and walking a little bit, a few minutes have passed, and you see them like all turn towards you at the same time, and then they all move to the side like they're letting you walk by.
Oh, thank you. Before we continue, excuse me, if we could have a moment. There's something I need to do. And I tend to my longbow to restring it.
When you do start checking your longbow, you realize the bow string snapped a little bit too far in the center to be pulled again. It would arch your bow far too much to be usable.
Oh, shucks.
I said, "Wait, maybe I could try showing you what would be."
Your mic is breaking up.
I said, I put my hand up for the longbow as I say, maybe I can sew you a new string. What material would you use?
Well, I would typically. Well, if we found a land strider, perhaps I could use some of the hairs from it. Though I would need something long and durable and stretchy and elastic. Yes.
And at
land
that moment,
strider's hair.
And at that moment, you're interrupted by the ground shaking below you. It's another one of these earthquakes. And all the creatures, all of a sudden, you almost don't even see it when you're looking around. They just fade into the background of the forest and the roots, and they disappear, and all the side ticks go and disappear into little scurry holes and stuff, and all the sounds of the forest all of a sudden go quiet as this rumble passes. It takes about 15-20 seconds, and it's the heaviest one you've heard yet and felt yet. Now
the ground is rumbling. I instinctively grab onto V with both hands, and we're kind of huddling in our own little circle as all this is happening. And I use my longbow now as a walking stick, seeing as it's going to be useless otherwise for now.
I completely forget about the earthquake and seeing the creatures fade away, as I tried to remember our last conversation and say, remember that special string you used to always give me for my birthday? I think I may have some of that. It would be a perfect material for a bow, nice and sturdy.
Sure, check. It would be amazing if you brought that.
I dug my hand through my bag as I pull out and say, "Aha, here, hand me your bow. This will not take long." As I took out the other wires and started pulling and stretching and hooking this new wire around his bow.
All right, give me a let's do a sewing check with a target of a 14.
Okay. So I got a 9, and then I added the 8 for my sewing, so I got a 17.
All right, go ahead and narrate it.
I pull the strings and hook them through like the little hole on the bow, so it could stay. After I'm done doing that, I hand the bow back to him. It was nice and sturdy, and it kind of just looked better than it did before because of the strong, unbreakable, really, material I used.
All right, she hands the bow back to you, and it looks actually like it would work.
I hold the bow and I pull the string a couple times. Ding, ding, ding. And I feel the tension of my bow.
It feels like it would get a shot or two off.
Excellent work, V. Excellent.
Thank you, I say. It was not really that hard.
I can't believe you had that in your bag.
Never leave without it, I say with a chuckle.
You really do always come prepared.
Uh-huh.
Such a smart girl.
Uh-huh, including when we're gonna have these long journeys. I wish we were back at our home.
How are you doing with everything happening? I'm so worried about you. And how do you feel?
I feel fine. Why?
Well, I mean, there's just been so much happening, and after this whole chase and you recovering, it's just, we still got a long way to go. You hungry?
Very.
When you say hungry, off in the distance, back way the opposite direction the opposite direction of where you're going, you hear the howls again of the Arduffs way off in the distance.
I sigh and say, I guess they're hungry.
You're right. And by everything that's happened, they want us to be on the menu. Come on, let's keep it moving, and I'll look in my bag and see what I have.
I take Fluffy out of my bag, and I nestle through his fur. I said, I saw you put some seeds in here. As I grab some seeds from his fur and feed it to him.
And as you're doing that, and you're looking through your bags and feeding Fluffy, all of a sudden you're feeding him, and he just, his eyes go wide, and he pops back in his bat and back in the pouch, and the seeds fly out and land on the ground. And instantly, Jibo, you see something ahead of you. This was the direction that these creatures were leading you. You see something ahead that looks on the ground. It looks black and purple.
I looked to the direction that he was looking, that my dad was looking, and saying, "What's that?" As I pick up the seeds from the floor and put them in the pouch of seeds I had.
Oh, that beautiful shine. The color. I've never seen anything like it.
Me either, I say, as I mindlessly walk towards it.
And as you do get closer, you actually never have seen anything like this. And when you get closer, it looks like to be the arm of some kind of giant crab that looks broken off, laying on the ground. And out of the back of it, you now instantly see there's like the ground around it looks like it's all like decaying and dying, and you see some green fluid coming out of that piece of the arm. And then that green fluid, now that you're getting a little closer, you see is like just spreading in the ground, and there's actually a little stream off of the edge where it's going into that stream that was coming from the river.
I gasp and say, "We gotta move this arm." Without touching it, though, I say as I stare at it and tilt my head a bit, trying to observe it.
I don't think we should touch it. Here, grab a stick and let's poke at it a bit.
I look to my bag as I change into my thick boots, so none of that weird green stuff gets on my feet. I poke at it with a stick as I stare at it, just thinking what it could be.
I'm at this point looking around and looking up, and now I just feel like there's something that might fall out of the sky. Why is this just laying here on the ground? Be careful. And I'm looking around, trying to see if I can feel anything or hear anything. Or
When you're looking around and you do look up, and you're looking at the tangle of the branches and the vines hanging down, you also notice that it's beginning to get late. The three suns are starting to set, and you do see a couple of giant bugs up on the tree, black and red, but they don't look anything like this creature. You've seen these creatures before, and you see some birds and stuff flying away. Other than that, you don't notice anything.
I don't think we should mess with this anymore. Let's go around and try to find somewhere that we'll be able to camp for the night. It's getting late and we need to find somewhere safe.
Wait, I say as I quickly open my journal and write down the directions we went so far in the forest, so I could keep track of where we're going.
And as you're doing that and walking around this giant black claw that's got like purple veining in it and things, you see the corruption that's like growing all around it and spreading as you're walking wide around it. And you see this one white flower that's setting almost in the middle of the corruption. And you notice around this one white flower that none of the corruption is getting near it. It's almost like pushing it away. And it's a flower you've never seen before.
I look at the flower and try to match it with all the other white flowers that looks close to this, but I've never seen anything like it.
And as you do get closer, you see it looks like it's like the cup is like sideways, and it looks like flipped over, and it's white and green, and it also has a little bit of tinge of purple to it, but not like the purple on the arm. But it definitely seems like this flower, for some reason, is holding this blight back. You don't see any other flowers like it around either.
I walk towards the flower as I see if there's any seeds I could pick off of it, so I could try to plant it somewhere else. And I say, "Hey, look at this. This flower looks like it's somehow repelling this green weird corruption."
You're muted.
I come over and looking at this flower, and I instinctively go over to it and bend down and smell.
You don't smell the flower in particular, but you do smell an almost sulfur-like acidic smell that's coming from the corruption of the blight. Now that you're down near it, this is the closest you've ever been to this stuff, besides the wolf-like creatures. And when you do bend down, and you're near him, Vierana, you do see 2 little seed pods off the branches that each have what looks like to be a little seed.
Out of my bag, I grabbed a little pouch. I grabbed an empty pouch and put all the little seeds in it and close it very tightly and put it somewhere very deep inside my bag so Fluffy won't eat them.
And as you're placing those inside and you're examining the flower, Jibo, and you see her do this, again you hear the sound of the Adras off in the distance, just a little closer now.
Now we can really get going. But somewhere safe. I don't want to get eaten.
Yeah. I feel as if these Adras are hunting us at this point. I hope they don't have us locked in on their scent. Let's keep moving. And I hold her hand and kind of pull her along to move with haste. And I'm now walking around through this wood, and I'm looking for an area that we can possibly climb up and camp for the night.
All right, and you move through this forest quickly, adrenaline rushing, and you feel yourself getting farther away from the address. It almost seems like maybe something caught their attention and you haven't heard them for maybe a half hour or so. And as the light begins to break behind the mountains, you get just to the edge of the break of the wood. You can see it just ahead. You can see the fields through the mountains.
I'm looking around as we are traveling through, and I'm deciding this is where we are going to have to camp. V, I'm sorry we've gone this far. It's time to rest. And I just instinctively start grabbing a few things to make a forest-like tent that us Gelfling are accustomed to making in these woods.
All right. As you're setting up camp, you do feel like you still haven't heard anything in a while. Just the sounds of the wildlife. Everything seems normal, and this is a part of the forest that you've never been to, and the wildlife all here is curious. And as you're setting camp up, you see all kind of eyes popping up here and there.
I mumble to myself, I don't know what, but I think these creatures are stalking us or something.
And when you say that, Fluffy jumps out of your bag just as you're finishing setting up camp, and he starts pulling seeds out of his fur that he packed earlier and starts eating them.
I make a little campfire and start preparing some supper for us. V, could you look around and see if you can find any edibles for us around here? Any plant or seed-like things that we may be able to feed off of?
Sure, I say. I'll try to stay close to camp. As I walk around, looking at the bushes, trying to find if they had any sort of berries.
Yep, and as you leave, Fluffy quickly runs over to your side, then runs up ahead of you, sniffing around. And you do find all kind of berries and even some mushrooms too. Did you hear me? Sorry.
No, could you say that again?
Oh, Fluffy runs by you and starts sniffing around, and you walk around for a few minutes, and you do find some berry bushes and even some mushrooms.
I pick all the berries and mushrooms and whatever I could find that looks edible. As I pick up Fluffy and say, Fluffy, don't go wandering off. As I pick him up and hold him and make my way back to camp, for there will I expect the berries.
Yep, as you're getting back to camp and you're looking at the berries, they all look really, really good. And you guys even got a little camp by a little patch of water, so you can probably even clean them off if you wanted to. And when you get back, your Papa Jibo has camp all set up and a fire going.
Ooh, this is nice. I say, look, something you could pay for.
Yeah, little campsite out in the middle of paradise. You would think. What did you find?
I found all these bears and all these boxes. I even managed to find Fluffy on the ground.
Little Fluffy. Let's clean these and prepare them.
Shouldn't I check them first? So
yes, you do that, and I'll wash.
Okay.
And we make our way to the little stream.
I'm gonna roll for the. Wait, do I roll?
No, you don't have to, because you know what these berries are. You would you only roll if you need to know what something is. No, these are safe. You've eaten these before. The seeds and the thornberries you've never seen before.
I washed the bears third, making sure not to squeeze or pop any, as I don't want to waste this food, since it's probably the only one we're gonna find in maybe hours. So, when I'm done washing them, I serve them in a little bowl, and I put I give one to Fluffy for a taste test, and I hand it both to my dad, and I make a small little bowl for myself.
These are perfect. And those mushrooms, they'll go perfect with the soup I'm making. And I take what I need and I make my way back to the fire stove and finish preparing our dinner.
I smile at him, and I smile at my dad and say, "You know how much I love mushroom soup."
And as you're saying that, and you look in his direction, you're looking in the exact direction where the three suns are setting off in the distance. You can see them just through the break in the trees, right between a V and the mountains, way off in the distance, Vierana. And then it happens again. You get that flash in your mind of that creature again, and it flashes and it stings in your mind, and then it begins to fade away, and then you see the three suns in there again, and then just in that moment they fade away. The edges of the suns touch the mountains as they begin to disappear behind the mountains. And Jibo, you do see your daughter get stunned and shocked here for a moment. You see her, like, she drops some berries from her hands as she's staring at the sun.
I rub my eyes and massage my temples and say that as I pick up the berries and rewash.
I come over to thee and I put my hand on her back and on her arm. Thee, what is it? What is it, honey?
No, I just
What's
got
happening?
that weird vision again.
And this time, when you're looking at her and she says that weird vision, you notice something on her forehead right here. It looks like almost like looks like a little scar, just right here in the middle of her forehead. She doesn't.
I move and grab both sides of her face, and I kind of just move her face around, and I look at this scar. What's happened to your forehead? Did you hit yourself?
What's happened to my foot? What? I never hit myself. I don't even know what you're talking about.
And I take my thumb as I'm saying this, and I just rub lightly over the scar.
You just feel a bump, just like it feels like an old scar. You don't really notice anything else about it. And as you're doing that, you do you hear the pots rumbling and the pot that you have rumbling, and then you feel that itch again, where you felt it before. Not really a pain, but it's like itchy.
I said,
Not to worry, V, and with it starting to get late, I move over. Come, V, we must finish and rest for the night. And I finish serving us and kind of just try to ignore this tingling numbness feeling this time. And we eat supper.
I say, this soup is phenomenal. It's phenomenal. It's so good. I said, what I would just go with, this would go really, really good with some berries. I say, I look at his bowl and say, I don't think you finished them, did you?
Oh, you sweet girl. I was saving them for you. And I just like look at her while she's eating, and the evening is turning to night, and she just reminds me of her mother. And I tell her that.
I smile at him and say, oh yeah, I forgot to tell you this long ago. What was mother like? I can't really. It was such a long time ago.
Yes, your mother. And as we sit there around the campfire, I tell stories of her mother, and I tell her about the first time we met and how our eyes met through a crowd of people, through a crowd of Gilflings in a much simpler time. And here, honey, instead of telling you, why don't I show you? And I put my hand up. Dream fast.
I smile at him and say, dream fast, as I place my hand on his.
And you guys begin to dream fast, and memories of he's showing you some new, some old you've seen. And then you're dream fasting for what seems like an hour, but it's only moments. And then all of a sudden, you feel something touch your other hand, and all of a sudden, you guys are getting visions of when Fluffy was born and his parents, and him running around the house and getting nuts and stuff. And the fire crackles, and your guys' bellies are full as you fall asleep for the night, having good dreams. And then all of a sudden you are awoken by a horrible, the worst yet, rumbling earthquake you've heard yet. The wildlife is going crazy. The big pods from the trees are falling and splashing their fluids out, and this awakens you, and Fluffy's already up and jumping around.
I get up and grab Fluffy and wrap him in my arms and say, Fluffy, are you okay?
He chirps that he's okay, but he seems really panicked. This rumbling is still going. This one almost seems like it's lasting a minute.
I wake up and scurry to my feet and make my way to my daughter, to Fluffy. Oh, things are starting to get much worse around here. What's happening? And I hold on.
Even falls off the cindered fire. You hear trees cracking even in the background. Doesn't sound good.
I look around and grab the few things that belong to us, and I make sure the fire's out.
I pack up my things.
Kick some dirt on it. Mm-hmm.
I pack up my things and I stuff them tight into my bag. As I put Fluffy in my bag also, and try to take down our camp a bit, so nothing gets stuck in it or anything. We got everything. As I look, as I have a worried look on my face, and I look back.
All right, as you guys scurry and you get the camp all broke down and your belongings. Just at that last moment, the rumbling ground does seem to fade right as you pick up your last things and get ready to start moving.
And I hold on to V, and we make our way out of the clearing, out into the clearing from this forest where we were camping on the edge. And I'm looking around at the destruction that this campfire, or that this ground rumbling might have caused. Seeing some trees knocked over and just trying to assess the area and move safely.
And yeah, you do. You're moving through the broken branches and the uplifted roots here and there, and you get closer to the break of the trees, and you can see, as you're breaking the trees, you can see all the birds flying, just way more than you normally would see. Obviously, they're being, aggravated by the ground shaking and all that stuff. And as you break the forest, the end of the endless forest, something you've only done a few times in your life ever, and you see the beauty of these Sprighton plains right before you. Looks like an endless amount of hills going in all directions, surrounded by mountains in all directions. And you see way off in the distance, a little bit more to the northwest, you can see what looks like a disturbance in the sky. And it looks like dark black with purple light tendrils crawling through the clouds way off in the distance.
Oh no! V, look up. The three brothers.
I looked up and gasped.
When you look up and you see what's happening, and you can actually see that's the light of the three brothers, but it's peering through the abnormal thickness of the clouds in the sky. And off in the distance, you hear the sounds of Landstriders running frantically across the fields.
I gasp and smile and say, "Over there!" As I run over in the direction of the sound that seems to be Landstriders.
Wait, honey, wait. Where are you going? And I kind of trail after her.
Landstriders, I say, as I glance through the mountains and try to spot one.
Yeah, as you're running, you are going through the hills and stuff, and she's getting just a little bit ahead of you. She's so excited, Jibo. And she crests the mountain, or she crests one of the higher hills, and you get up on a high view, and now you can see the plains just in their glory and how beautiful they are in green. And you do see it's not very far, but pretty far. You see a group of landstriders, more than you can count, and they're beautiful and they're tall. They look like they almost look like the size of a small tree.
I run over to a one that was light brown, and I thought, wow, can we take that one?
Wait, V. Wait. They're not all tame.
Exactly, but
And
I tame them. I say as I put my hand up in the air.
And as this is happening, I make my way to V, and I let out a Landstrider call.
And as you begin calling, and she's standing there on the hillside with her hand up, you see a break in the clouds, and a beam of sunlight comes down and almost seems to like illuminate the scene. And five or six of the Landstriders hear your call, and they begin to run over frantically.
It's working, V. It's working.
I say,
Just like I've told you in stories before. You're going to see these glorious animals in their full beauty and awe.
I say, I can tame one. Watch me as I put one of my hands up and out in front of me. I say, do that call again.
And as they're walking up and they're almost there in front of you, just maybe a few paces away, all of a sudden you get a pain again in that spot, and the pain is really strong this time. And then Jibo, you hear this, but Vierana doesn't because she's so enthralled in this beast. But you hear something run up behind you.
I put my hand on the lance strap on what a lance tries to think. Hello there. I'm V. We need you to get to Aga. Would you like to come with us?
And as they're talking, Jibo, this thing sounds very close now.
I'm turning around and looking, but also holding my stomach and my chest and my arm in pain, and really worried about myself at this point. And I squint through this wood to see what's making its way towards me.
And as you do that and you squint, and you hear Vierana still talking behind you, and you can smell that familiar smell of the Landstriders. It's so close to you now, you actually hear them breathing, but you're so intent on looking at the wood, and right at that moment you see that last Arduf that's been hunting you this whole time. He just breaks the wood and is now charging, jumping across the hills and the little rocks and bumps. And Vierana, at that moment, you also hear one of those wolf-like creatures bark, and then you see the Landstriders all stand up and like get scared, and they stand up and they start moving backwards, almost tripping over each other, trying to turn around.
I put my hand up to them and say, stay. We'll fix this problem. I look at my dad and say, come on, shoot it. This is our last chance to get a Landstrider.
I shake off this ill feeling. I pull out a bow. I take aim and I tell V, See if you can mount one of the land striders while I take out this Arda. And I poised myself for a shot at this Arda.
And as you do, and you crouch down to your knee and you pull the bow down and you take aim, it now just leaps off of that hill just behind you and is jumping right at you in midair. And lets out a furious bark, and you see its green eyes and that green foam dripping out of its mouth.
Smirking. This animal in the air, for me, feels like a sitting target. And I release my bow, my arrow.
Go ahead and
And
give
I'm
me
shooting.
that roll. It is a target of a 15.
I'm shooting for the arrow. I'm shooting for the Arda, and I'm trying to hit him right in the middle of the chest. Jumping. 15. I rolled a 7 plus the 6 of my longbow. It would be a 13.
And you
Correct.
shoot, and the arrow just cuts the side of his shoulder, and the arrow flies off into the little ramble behind him, and that knocks him just off to the side as he lands on the ground, and now he begins to run up the side of the hill that you guys are standing on.
I'm reaching for another arrow and heading to release that one.
And as you feel around, you don't feel anything, and then all of a sudden you grab and you feel your last arrow. And you knock it up, and just at that moment he's running up the hill, barking, and the land striders, you can hear them now moving farther away behind you.
I run up.
Please.
I say to my dad that, come on, you have to hit this one. If you do, I'll craft you some other arrows. I promise. But please just try your best. We need this land strider.
And that wolf at that moment you're talking is almost right in front of you. And it looks like it's jumping towards B right now.
By the power of Argo, please. And I just let go of this arrow, and I just feel like I'm tunneled in with everything on the line.
All right, go ahead and roll. I'll give you a target of 14.
That's a really hard target.
17. I rolled a 5 and a 6.
Good job.
11 plus 6. 17.
All right, so right as the wolf is jumping off of his back feet, you nail him right in the side, and he goes tumbling off the rock, and you hear.
Not wanting this poor animal to suffer, I follow behind with my short sword to end his pain and misery. And as I make my way up to it, B, turn away.
I turned around and I put my arms like this and say, "Which land starter wants to come with us on our journey to see Alga? You'll be safe with us." That was just a little demonstration for you.
All right, and you hear her talking up on the hillside as you approach this beast laying on its side, taking its last breaths, bleeding out of its side where your arrow punctured it.
And I go up to it and be at peace. And I push my arrow or my sword through its side. And I pull it out.
And the beast takes its last breath, and its chest falls.
I use my side of my shirt and I wipe some of that blood off of it, off my sword, as I then sheath my sword and I pull my arrow out and I put that arrow back into its sack. Only this time I'm trying to be careful not to make skin contact with the blood. And I'm using the same piece of cloth to wipe off that green blood, and then I'm breaking that cloth off and saving it.
All right, and as you're doing that, Vierana, one of the there was 5 Lance Riders, but only 2 of them came back over to you. The other ones ran off scared, and one of them ducks down to you, and they're so strange looking. They look like almost like gigantic, long, skinny bats with like old man faces and big whiskers. And they're pretty gray and like old and ratty looking, but they also look very friendly. They have very wise, kind eyes. And they're speaking in a language, but you can't understand the language. And one of them does come over to you and puts his hand down near where your hand is.
I look at him and smile and give out a little chuckle and say, "Thank you." As I call it to my dad and say, "Papa, I've got one." As I slowly start petting his head.
And when you
I
do
make my way over.
And when you do start petting his head, you feel that animal bond. And go ahead and make me a magic check. Your target will be a 10.
Okay, that's kind of easy. Okay, so I rolled a 9, and then with my magic check, I got a 15.
All right, so that's +5. Go ahead and you narrate it. You touch his head, and you're starting to get all his thoughts.
When I get all these thoughts, I start to smile, and I feel that the Lancer is probably happy that he's willing to let us ride him on our journey.
And that they are willing to do, and the other one even comes over in that moment and bows its head down and touches you also. And then at that moment you come up over the hill, Jibo, and you see Vierana with their hands out on the heads of these 2 Lance Riders, and then at that moment they both stand up and they start like making these noises, and then they duck down like to let you jump on their backs.
I look at him and say, "Look, one for both of us. Can we please keep him? Can we please keep them?"
You're muted.
Oh.
Good work, V. Let me show you how to mount them now. And I make my way over. You have to hold here and jump up here. And I jump up and I show her where to hold and exactly how to sit best. Remember, when they start moving, lean forward.
I started to sit down and copy him the same way that he was sitting down, and I looked and I turned my head to him and gave him a thumbs up, saying I'm ready. How do I make this thing move?
And then when you say that, and you're up on top of the Lance Rider, you realize you hear Fluffy down on the hill that you just jumped off of. And when you look down, you see him like looking up, and you see him shaking a little, like he's scared, and he jumps behind a mushroom. I
I tap the land strider on the head and point down and say, "Can I get off really quickly?"
And he lowers down, yep, and lets you off.
I jump off and grab Fluffy and put him in my bag and say, "Oh, Fluffy, they're kind. There's nothing to be scared of," I say as I hop back on my land strider.
And yeah, when you get him, you can feel him. He's shaking. He seems scared.
Fluffy, it's nothing to worry about. They're not gonna hurt you.
You two, let's go. We gotta get moving. Is everything okay?
Yeah, Fluffy's just scared of the gentle giant.
Maybe you should just grab him and put him in your bag for now.
That's what I did. I say as I tap Fluffy on the head.
Nice.
Now how do I get this? Now how do I get this thing to walk?
You pull up and you click, and I show her how I click my heels right on the back part behind me.
All right,
Forward.
give me a writing check to teacher. Your target will be a 14.
And I rolled a 14.
That's it.
Right. So he shows you what to do, and he makes the clicking sound, and he shows you where to pull on the hair and all that stuff. And then you try it, and go ahead and give me a check. And I'm going to give you a +2 because of how he showed you. So that brings your writing to a 6.
Me?
Yep. And your target will be a 14 also.
Okay, hold on. Okay, so a 14?
Yep.
Okay. I got a 15.
All right. You guys both rear back and click the land striders, and you see that she just takes off a little bit better than you. And
All right! As I yelled at her and cheered. So proud of you.
I smile and say, "It's just like how I used to ride your back when I was a kid. It's easy."
and as you begin going, the land striders break the edge of the broken hills and the last of the trees, and they hit the open plains. And they just begin to pick up speed and go faster and faster, and your hair is whipping through the air as you remember it's just like last time.
I don't look over, but I tell my dad, "By the way, when we're done with this journey, can we please take them home? I have a perfect place to put them."
I laugh out loud and just kind of yell, "Hold on tight!" And I just go with that land strider. As when he goes forward, I really lean into those forward lunges, and when he's pulling back, I'm leaning back, and I'm just all out gleaming and smiling. I just feel free again as this thing just starts picking up speed, and we just are running at top speed.
I lean forward and I feel my hair blowing in the wind. I say, "This is really fun." As I feel Fluffy seeing his little fur blow in the wind.
Yeah, he peeks his head out, and he's getting all blown and stuff, and then he just jumps back in. He doesn't really like it. And then you guys are traveling for what seems like minutes, but it's been hours. It's just so fun riding this thing and seeing the beautiful lands. And off in the distance, you see that mountain where the clouds are now going, slowly moving behind you to the side. And you travel on some more, and then way off in the distance, you can see a pink dot up on the side of the hills with the oceans gleaming behind it with the small mountains. And that is the tree that you know where Ulgra lives. And we will call it a night right there.